Commercial Officer, and very pleased to be here with you all today. Before we start, I want to thank Deb for acknowledging and starting the discussion in the spirit of reconciliation. As a company who has a unique relationship with natural resources and particularly the land, that's something that's important to our employees, our communities, and all of our stakeholders. So thank you, Deb. Nutrien is proudly rooted in Western Canada, and our operations here are extensive and growing. We have 4 world-class nitrogen manufacturing facilities here in Alberta, and right next door in Saskatchewan, we have 6 potash mines and nearly 300 agricultural retail outlets across the Western Prairies, 100 of which are located here in Alberta. We also have 2 corporate offices based in Saskatoon and 1 here in the south of Calgary. And Canada is home for Nutrien, but our reach is global and it's extensive. As the world's largest producer and provider of crop inputs and services, our global business spans 4 operating segments. We operate in 13 countries around the world, and we have fertilizer production capacity of over 27 million tons, and we serve over 500,000 growers around the world. Nutrien plays a critical role in providing global food security by ensuring that farmers have access to the products, services, and technologies they need to sustainably increase food production. The use of fertilizers accounts for approximately 50% of global crop yields, and it's absolutely critical for growers to meet the continued demand for growth in food. And now, with the events that are happening all around us in the world, it's especially critical, and food insecurity touches too many today globally. We're taking action as a company to help fill the gap for food and fertilizers caused in part by Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the resulting disruption to food production, energy production, and fertilizer production in this region. And while it's impossible for one company to offset all of these supply impacts alone, we're doing everything that we can as a company and an industry to meet our global customers' needs. In June, we announced that we would safely accelerate production at our existing potash facilities by 3 million tons to a total of 18 million tons in several increments over the next 3 years. And we've also announced a 500,000 ton increase in nitrogen production by 2025. And I'd be remiss not to mention our ambitious plans to do all of this while solving for the challenge of climate and the environment. When dealing in societal imperatives like food security and climate, we can't make trade-offs. These aren't or decisions. These are ands, and we have to solve for both of these together. This is why in 2021, as a company, we launched our Feeding the Future plan, which includes commitments to help reduce our carbon footprint while preserving and growing food production around the world. Some of these commitments set to be achieved by 2030 include at least a 30% reduction in Scope 1 and 2 greenhouse gas emissions intensity from fertilizer production, pursuing the transition to clean ammonia, a potential hydrogen carrier, and something with great potential for the Alberta economy, and scaling up our carbon program, which empowers growers to accelerate climate-smart agricultural practices and sequester more carbon in soils where growers are rewarded for their efforts through the generation of carbon assets and carbon credits. Alberta is a world leader in the generation of carbon credits, and our aspiration is to build on this success in the future. So suffice it to say that we as Nutrien, Alberta, and Canada have a critical and shared role to play in sustainably feeding a growing world. With that, on behalf of Nutrien, I am pleased to introduce our keynote speaker, Premier Danielle Smith. And after years in the business, political, and media community, Premier Smith has returned to the political arena after winning leadership of the United Conservative Party in October, and will soon return to the legislature as an MLA for Brooks Medicine Hat after winning by-election just last week. So Premier Smith, it's my privilege today to welcome you back and invite you up to the stage.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for having me here today, and thank you as well to Mark I'm delighted to be back at the Chamber of Commerce, and it is a pleasure to be here with so many forward-looking leaders. I have a note here to make space for further acknowledgements, but my goodness, I've got so many friends, and there are so many people in this room who are doing so much for the Alberta economy, for the country, for your local economy. So I just want to give a heartfelt thanks to all of you for doing that. Maybe I will thank the board of directors of the Calgary Chamber of Commerce, because I applied for the job that you ultimately chose Deb Yedlin for. And, you know, it's okay. I got another job. Don't worry about me. But I think you made a tremendous choice with Deb Yedlin. I have known her for literally decades and admired her work when she was at the Calgary Herald as our lead energy writer, but then watched as she went on to the University of Calgary. And to have somebody here who can draw those two worlds together, especially as we're doing so much on innovation and technology, I do really want to congratulate the board of directors for making such a tremendous choice. So congratulations, Deb. And I should also tell you what I told Mark as well, because as you know, we've got a federal government who's a little bit hostile to our fertilizer industry these days, wanting them to arbitrarily reduce the amount of fertilizer use by 30%. I said, if he needs any help on that, I am more than happy to be up for that fight. So I'm glad to have you here today, because I think there's going to be a dual purpose that we have to assert in Alberta. Number one, that we are going to be leaders on providing energy security for the world, but we're also going to be leaders in providing food security for the world. And I think we're making some progress there, and I'll tell you about that more in just a minute. But as business leaders and community members, you understand the fundamental truths about our economy, our place in Canada's prosperity, and the social networks that we need to provide. This is a great city, and it's one of the most powerful drivers of the Alberta economy. It accounts for about a third of the province's GDP. It's well on the way to becoming one of Canada's high-tech, financial, and energy hubs as more companies from around the world set up headquarters and branches here. People are voting with their feet too, moving here for good jobs, of course, for beautiful mountain views, for affordable homes, and for a high quality of life. And Calgary will get the care, attention, and respect it deserves from our government so that it can continue to grow safely and efficiently. I want Calgary to succeed. It was my home for many years. I spent most of my life having been born and raised in Calgary, and I will always love Calgary because it has been such a big part of my life. My personal story started here, but for those of you who don't know me, I should just maybe give you a little bit more of my background, reintroduce myself, even though I have done so in speeches to the Chamber before. And then I'd also like to connect some of the things about our government's vision and our plans for the province and how crucial they are going to be for Calgarians. But first, what are some of the things that you need to know about me? Well, number one, much of my career has been dedicated to advancing and advocating the interests of entrepreneurs, of property owners, and businesses. I was delighted earlier to start with a roundtable discussion where we could talk about policy for the business community, which is one of my favorite things to do. I started off with business advocacy with the Canadian Property Rights Research Institute, and that experience let me learn about the issues facing both our landowners and food producers and how they intersect with the energy sector as well. I moved on to the Canadian Federation of Independent Business, and we did great collaborative work at that time with the chambers, and in particular the Calgary Chamber, for whom, as you know, I have great admiration. The CFIB has been a prominent voice for small business nationwide for the business community for more than 50 years. Working for them helped me to learn some really important lessons about what small business owners go through. And that was years before I became a business owner myself. Somehow learning about that incredible grind that small businesses go through. I'm not sure why it didn't dissuade me and plunge me into a state of fear, but I have learned a lot along the way in owning a business over the last few years. I also spent a bit of time at the Alberta Enterprise Group advocating for better public policies on behalf of job creators of every size. And before getting back into politics, my husband and I opened a little restaurant in High River, which I have been told it's been independently validated that we make the very best Eggs Benedict in Alberta. So I encourage you to show some support for my husband and give that a try. All that is to say that this is my way of helping entrepreneurs and building a pro-job creation environment, it matters to me. It's been a focus of my career before I put my name on the ballot, and it remains central to my agenda now that I'm Premier. And I do think that the chambers across the entire province do a tremendous job of representing their members. Anytime I talk to a business community, I say, do join your local chamber, because when your voice is strong, it allows you to develop good policy, which then allows us to have confidence when we're taking your policy ideas and implementing them. You really punch above your weight. You have your fingers on the pulse of everything that happens in Calgary's business community. And I really do consider you not just a policy think tank, and it's not just for city issues. We have seen that you've done great work on the provincial issue, certainly nationally as well. And I think with the importance of Calgary and our business community internationally, increasingly also. So I will look to you as a source of advice as I go through this new role to ensure that Alberta continues to stay strong and continues to grow. And I'll be looking to a number of our other partners to secure the best possible future for Alberta. And those partners will certainly include our municipal governments. I want to ensure that we can reset the relationship between our government and our municipal leaders, because we are all serving the same people and we are all dealing with the same concerns and the same challenges. And that is why I appointed Rebecca Schultz, who is our MLA for Calgary Shaw, as Minister of Municipal Affairs to improve that relationship of mutual respect and cooperation to better serve Albertans. You know, I thought that the most important relationship she'd have in rebuilding would be with Mayor Jody Gondek here in Calgary and Mayor Amarjeet Sohi in Edmonton, but her first task was to speak to the Rural Municipalities Association. And I didn't know it was a hazing ritual to take them out until 2 o'clock in the morning at the Sherlock Holmes pub. But I can tell you they're absolutely in love with her too. And so now we've got, I think, a terrific representative, not only for the big city issues, mid-sized cities, but also for our rural municipalities. So I'm looking forward to having her in that role. And the fact is this, we're going to be facing some headwinds. We all know it. We all feel it. Some of these headwinds are global, like the impact of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, supply chain disruptions, or a global increase in interest rates. And some of them are national, like a federal government that lets spending and debt and inflation run out of control, or that pursues policies that target Canada's and Alberta's energy sector with punishing sanctions and regulations. And that's why I asked Minister of Environment and Protected Areas Sonia Savage, who's also the MLA for Calgary Riding, the MLA for Calgary Northwest, to lead an Alberta delegation to the COP27 conference in Egypt to ensure that people over there understand the steps that we are taking to develop our industry in an environmentally sustainable and responsible manner. Now, I don't know if you saw the story in The Sun about what Stephen Guilbeault had to say today. He said he was not going to sign on to the final communique to phase out our oil and natural gas because he says, and this was quoted in the story, the federal government does not have jurisdiction over natural resources. And he went on to say, and backing the language that was written in that communique would, it says it could risk a lawsuit from the provinces that Ottawa could not win. So you see that this is what happens when you push back on Ottawa and you make them realize that we have a cooperative federalism. They cannot just unilaterally do whatever they want to do. And as part of the reason, and I'll talk about that in a minute, about why we're going to take a whole different approach. We want Albertans to have control over our own destinies. And while I wish that the global situation was more secure and stable, and while I wish that the dreaded R word wasn't hanging over everyone's head, and while I wish Albertans had a better partner in Ottawa, the fact is we can't always rely on any of those things. And I didn't get back into politics to make wishes. I got back into politics to fix some things. I got back into politics to make things better. Now, when it comes to fixing things, when it comes to making things better, there are no shortcuts, as you know. There's no real mystery and there's no real magic. The formula is quite simple. It requires a good team and it requires a good plan. And last month I was pleased to announce my team, Alberta's team, to tackle this new challenge. with a talented and experienced cabinet that is ready to take on this challenge. At the core of our economic teams are ministers like Travis Taves, who will continue to serve as the Minister of Finance, and he is working on a midterm update to our budget, but he will deliver the budget in February as well. And Pete Guthrie, who many of you have met, especially those of you who recently attended the CAP board meeting. He is our new Minister of Energy, and he's going to be working on supporting the development of hydrogen, helium, lithium, LNG, geothermal, and mineral development to increase jobs and increase investment and work with industry to develop a pathway for the implementation of carbon technology to support carbon neutrality by 2050. And I just want to thank the Pathways Group for taking such a lead on that, and I think it's making a big difference internationally in how the world looks at us. I'm looking at a room full of people who've been successful in business, and I'm pretty sure it's a room full of people who would agree with me when I say a key to success is finding good people and then to empower them to do the jobs you hire them to do. And that's certainly the approach that I'm going to take with our cabinet. I don't want ministers who sit around waiting to be micromanaged by the Premier's office. I'm setting big goals for my team, and now I'm asking them to take the ball and to run with it. But they are right to expect direction. And that brings me to the second part of the winning formula. You need to have a good plan. And on this, my cards are on the table. I want all of you and everyone in Alberta to know what that plan is going to be. Over the last week, in 4 different batches, I was pleased to publicly release the mandate letters that will form the foundation of our government's agenda through to the next election, and I am confident well beyond that. This is where our laser focus is going to be. Those mandate letters spell it out in black and white. Our plan is going to be focused on 4 key core pillars, and I must say we had a really productive caucus meeting within weeks of my getting elected as leader. And these priorities came from my caucus, so I want you to know that they're centered around these 4 areas. The first is taking immediate action to help Albertans with the inflation and affordability crisis. Second is to focus on job creation, diversification, and strengthening Alberta's economy. I'll have more to say about that. Third is taking immediate steps to address the challenges that risk overwhelming our healthcare system. I'm happy to talk about that in the Q&A if you like. And fourth, to proactively take steps to protect Albertans from unconstitutional overreach. So today I'll just focus on some of the economic items in the agenda. Our government, as I mentioned, is laser focused on creating jobs and diversifying the economy, so our province continues to lead the country in growth even as the global economy faces uncertainty. Our economy has real momentum. More and more job creators are recognizing the benefits of doing business in Alberta. And we have made real progress in diversifying our economy, but we want to see even more. We want to ensure we have lower taxes for our producers and innovators to grow local industries and to attract businesses from the best talent from the rest of Canada and from around the world. We want to create prosperity for all Albertans, and we want to send a message to markets and investors around the world that Alberta is open for business. And we're already transmitting that signal because Alberta's economy is getting stronger every day. Venture capital is pouring in. Consider, Alberta saw 56 deals worth $481 million in venture capital investment in the first 6 months of this year. So we are on pace to beat last year's record amount of $561 million. Unemployment is at 5.2%, 2.6% lower than October of last year. And our province has recovered all of the jobs that were lost during the pandemic. In fact, employment is now 4.7% above where it was in February of 2020. Now, I am paying attention to the warnings that we hear from some economists about stormy skies ahead. And the road will continue to get harder, so we must work harder to stand out from the crowd. We are going to continue to strengthen our labour market through skills development and active talent recruitment from other parts of Canada and from around the world. I heard from the early round table that TELUS in particular likes our Alberta is Calling campaign. Go figure, I wonder why. But I can tell you it's causing a little bit of tension with the other premiers. They've all raised it with me in the calls that I've had with them. So that says to me that it's working. We are going to renew the Alberta Advantage and use a combination of lower taxes, affordable housing, and a highly skilled workforce to continue attracting investment in multiple sectors in order to diversify the Alberta economy. economy. And we're going to make client service a core priority of economic development, whether it is concierge service to assist investors in navigating all the departments needed to gain approvals so that they can invest money here, or if it's working with our Parliamentary Secretary for Small Business, Martin Long, to develop a stakeholder outreach plan for small businesses across Alberta. I will mention that that is the number one thing that I heard is when I was with Alberta Enterprise Group, is the length of time it takes to get approvals on projects. Having low taxes is wonderful, and yes, the corporate tax was appreciated, and we already saw the benefit of that. We now have more dollars being raised through the lower corporate tax than we did before when it was a higher rate. That's what was supposed to happen. But making some strides on reducing red tape is really important. And the number one thing Alberta can do as a government is to listen to business owners, our job creators, about what you need to run your businesses efficiently and to earn money. Now, my goal is going to be to align all levels of government in Alberta in a common approach to proposals for investment business development. We want to focus on an attitude of producing results instead of obsessing about processes. And we have tremendous opportunity to continue growing newer industries as one example that I've asked the Minister of Technology and Innovation, Nate Glubish, to work on to ensure the growth of the video game and digital media industries, to increase Alberta's market share in this fast-growing, multi-billion-dollar industry, as well as to lead the implementation of our government's technology and innovation strategy to ensure that Alberta is the destination of choice for innovators, entrepreneurs, and investors. And just so that you understand, it's a dual approach, not only reaching out to the world and attracting tech companies here, but also making sure that we are technologically advanced in our own delivery of government services, which I think will send a message to the world about investing and diversifying Alberta's economy. I would be remiss if I didn't mention as well some of the great work that's being done by ministers such as Mickey Amory. He's Minister of Children's Services and MLA for another Calgary riding, Calgary Cross. He's going to be reviewing the foster care system to make life easier for children in care and to make it easier for parents who adopt children. I should also say that I'm pleased to announce that we supported $187 million in support of homelessness, mental health, and addiction. Our most vulnerable populations need proper treatment, mental health supports, and safe housing. And I just should give a bit of a call out, because I always do to embarrass him, to my Chief of Staff, Marshall Smith. He was initially the Chief of Staff in mental health and addictions, and he gave me a little bit of a Facebook tour yesterday in stopping in Red Deer to one of the recovery communities that we're making and that he designed. He's a renowned expert in addictions treatment. And one of the things that I think he has been very insightful in is realizing that we need a treatment-first approach if we're going to be able to help people get their lives back on track. So we're going to be building these recovery communities all over the province. I think this first one is going to be up and running. I'll probably end up doing a ribbon cutting there sometime in December. But do know that this is going to be absolutely key, because I've heard from the business communities in both Calgary and Edmonton that if we don't have a safe environment downtown for when you're bringing workers into your downtown, that's going to impact business attraction. We also need a respectful environment for those who are struggling with the demon of addiction so that we can see them through back into independence. So this is going to be a new approach, and it's already working. I was at a mental health conference just after I got elected, and the approach that we are taking has reduced opioid deaths 51%. Year over year. We've reduced hospitalizations 33%. We've reduced the number of ambulance visits 39%. And we're going to continue doing it. And I just give a round of applause to Marshall Smith, because honestly, it's such an amazing path that he's pioneering for us. And we're also lucky to have leaders like Matt Jones. You're going to hear a lot from him. He's our Minister of Affordability and Utilities and MLA for another Calgary riding, Calgary Southeast. Mike Ellis is our Minister of Public Safety and MLA for Calgary West. We've got Nick Milliken, who's Minister of Mental Health and Addiction and MLA for Calgary Currie. We've got Jeremy Nixon, Minister of Seniors, Community and Social Services and MLA for Calgary Klein. We've also got Tyler Shandro. He continues on as Minister of Justice and MLA for Calgary Acadia. Jason Copping, Minister of Health, going to hear a lot from him too. He's also the MLA for Calgary Varsity. Rajan Sawhney is the Minister of Trade, Immigration and Multiculturalism and MLA for Calgary Northeast. Dimitrios Nicolaides is our Minister of Advanced Education and MLA for Calgary Bow. And Jason Luan, Minister of Culture and MLA for Calgary Foothills. And now I'm going to get in trouble from Amarjeet Sohi because we've got an awful lot of representation from Calgary. But you know what? They just have to elect more MLAs from Edmonton and we'll have more at the cabinet table. We are also committed to investing in infrastructure and supporting community projects that will make life better. And that includes for the people of Calgary. And our government will continue doing that. We will still move forward with the government's commitment to the first phase of the Green Line LRT expansion. This is Calgary's biggest transportation infrastructure project, and it will have a major impact on commute times, Calgarians' quality of life, and the city's job market. And we're focused on seeing the Green Line become operational and will maintain support for helping this project to build our communities. I've also sent a letter to Mayor Jody Gondek about the potential of expanding the C-Train to Calgary International Airport. We are also going to see the final stages of construction of the Calgary Ring Road through to completion. Over 90% of that project has been finished. Only 11 kilometers are left to go. And the west is going to be the last segment, which in the autumn of 2024 will be open, and Calgarians will finally get the ring road they have been waiting for, making trips safer and faster and providing a boost to businesses all across southern Alberta. Now, Deerfoot Trail. Because Deerfoot Trail is technically a provincial highway until that ring road is completed, but we can't hand it over to Calgary in the condition that it's in. Deerfoot Trail is Alberta's busiest road. It has about 180,000 vehicles on it per day, and as the city grows, traffic is going to grow with it, leading to longer travel times and delays for business. So I'd also like to announce today that the government of Alberta is moving ahead with major improvements to Deerfoot Trail that will ease congestion for passengers and spur economic growth in the region. This investment will target key bottleneck areas between Glenmore Trail and Anderson Road, Bow Bottom Trail, where congestion is a problem. And those of you who listen to me on radio know that I would complain about that every single day. So now I'm in a position to do something about it. And hopefully we'll be able to solve that problem for all Calgarians who use it. We will solve this through improvements including multiple interchanges with extra lanes and 7 new bridges. The RFP has been issued, and I know that Devin Dreeshen, who is our Minister of Transportation and Economic Corridors, is hoping that the contract will be in place and work underway next spring. And when it's completed, Calgarians and businesses using the Deerfoot will end up with safer travel and commutes that will be shortened between 15 and 20%. These significant projects will have real impacts on the lives of Calgarians and their families. They will shave time for workers getting to and from shifts so that they can spend more time with friends and loved ones. They will ensure that parents can more easily get to their children's soccer games after school, and they will ensure that, heaven forbid, ambulances can get patients to hospitals faster for life-saving treatment. So these are early days, and I'll have much more to announce in the weeks and the months to come. Our goal is to diversify and strengthen Alberta's economy, ensure Albertans have assistance in paying their bills, and ensure our world-class frontline healthcare workers have the support that they need so that Albertans have the best healthcare that is there for them when they need it. And I can't promise that any of this is going to be easy, but I can promise that our government will fight for every inch and never, ever give up. Despite any obstacles and obstructionism that Alberta may face, I believe that we can win this. And no matter what the challenge is, we will always govern with the core values that make our province so great: freedom, family, community, and free enterprise. We will celebrate our job creators and our wealth creators because we know that when you do well, our communities do well too. We will support families. We will do everything possible to give Calgarians and Albertans the kind of future that they deserve. We will make this city and this province better than ever for families, entrepreneurs, and workers. And we will dare to dream big. The right ingredients are in place: great people, rich resources, and an outward-looking, hard-working entrepreneurial culture. Alberta's time is now, and we are going to make the most of it.